You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Mental Health Monday, and excited, a special guest for Mental Health Monday. We'll get to that in just a moment. Thank you, Concordia University, Wisconsin, for supporting the Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
So we have a special guest for Mental Health Monday today, Dr. John Eckrich, founder of Grace Place Wellness. Dr. Eckrich, thanks for being our guest today.
Well, thanks. It's great to be with you, Andy, and Sarah.
So you have a long history as a physician, and also then working with Grace Place, founding Grace Place Wellness to care for church workers as well. In terms of mental health, in your practice throughout the years, did you see a correlation between physical activity and mental health?
Well, absolutely. And just again, to reiterate the whole idea of the whole being, and I really think it's important for us always to come back to the concept that our physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual life are all so closely interrelated and interdependent on each other. So, yes, as a part of the physical internal medicine practice that I had, and even the gastroenterology practice, there was no question of the connection between physical health and exercise and mental health. And sometimes I think it's good to remember what physical exercise does for us in terms of just from a physical standpoint, and the lowering of blood pressure and the increase of blood flow to the heart and the brain and the muscles, decreasing cholesterol, which of course clogs up arteries and inflames arteries, lowering blood sugar, improving our weight, and helping our sleep. So just physically, all of those are so incredibly important to the maintenance of our mental health as well.
So expound a little bit more on this big picture of the whole person and where physical activity fits into that. You shared some aspects of that whole person, and I know that with Grace Place Wellness, you developed I believe the wellness wheel as well. Share with us more about the whole person and what makes up that whole person and where physical activity fits in that.
Well, it's really always interesting to me, even to look somewhat as a scientist, the fact that God's creation, every part of it is in motion, is in movement. Even what we would consider inanimate objects are moving, vibrating at a very slow speed or level, particles interacting. And so God has created both movement and rest as a part of our natural existence as creation, and particularly as human beings. So I think it's important to remember the proper stewardship, really, of our physical being in terms of including that movement and that regular exercise. So we know that as human beings, if we move properly, if we exercise, that it definitely improves our state of well-being, our sense of well-being as a whole person. I think people that exercise regularly do so because it makes them feel well. It gives them a sense of well-being. They have more energy, both physical energy and I think emotional energy. They sleep better at night, so they're able their mental state is able to kind of be rebalanced. And we know that happens with good rest and good sleep that follows the exercise. We know our memories are sharper when we carry out exercise on a regular basis. And I think we just generally feel more relaxed and positive. So all of those are certainly that strong relationship between our physical being and our mental well-being as well.
So we're talking a lot about physical activity. What actually constitutes physical activity? Is it going out for a 5 mile run, or is it gardening, or what actually falls under that description of physical activity that benefits the both physical and mental health?
Well, uh, I actually like the term movement,
Hmm.
not just physical activity. And movement is something, again, just thinking about the very microcellular part of creation, but movement is really central to a, a body and mind functioning well. So movement, if you have to kind of determine what you're trying to accomplish with your movement. If you want a good functioning body that where the muscles and joints and where the mentation and all of that uh, work properly and smoothly, then I think you can consider movement or exercise something that gets the heart rate up a little bit, that gets the breathing up a little bit, even as little as 5 to 10 minutes, but probably best 15 to 30 minutes a day of good exercise helps that. But building into daily movement, uh, more common things like the way that choosing to walk as opposed to uh, jumping in the car or using a bicycle to go longer distances, using hand powered tools in our kitchen and as we're creating our meals, our food. I think those are all sort of parts of movement that are important to think about and to build into our daily activity. The activities this time of year, particularly of gardening or doing yard work or those sorts of things, all of uh, those items that we wouldn't perhaps consider as going to the gym and working out on a machine or something like that. All of those things are critically important in terms of our movement and physical activity. So, sort of expanding the idea of what really constitutes activity. If you get into the idea of what gives us heart health or heart stamina or energy, then I think we're looking at either a vigorous exercise for 20 to 30 minutes where we get our heart rate up substantially and where we're even at the point of a little bit of being short of breath or able to still talk as we're walking, but maybe having a little more difficulty with that, so that we're getting that sort of vigorous exercise. I think for 15, 20, even up to 30 minutes is considered good heart health, or just simply walking for about an hour, 50 to 60 minutes, can accomplish the very same thing, particularly if we have some physical limitations that don't make it so easy for us to do the more vigorous exercises.
I appreciate some of the things that you shared that constitute physical activity or movement that are valuable. Just like you said, using hand tools in the kitchen. That's going to be some movement that we normally might pass up. Um, I follow biomechanist Katie Bowman, and while she doesn't necessarily share the same worldview, I think she follows an evolution perspective, but she believes that movement impacts us on a cellular level. So any movement really impacts the whole body, whether you're moving the arm or the legs or whatever you're doing, that it still has an impact on the body on a cellular level that affects the whole body. And really then affects the whole person as well. She's a person who for like her 40th birthday decided to walk 40 miles, I think, in a month. Just to keep moving. I find it really fascinating, this concept that movement isn't just about um, building muscle, or even from her perspective, isn't just about heart rate, but how it impacts your whole body on a cellular level.
Oh, no question about it. All of it is increasing blood flow, is increasing the amount of oxygen being carried to all the various cells within our body. All of that is affected by it. It affects blood sugar levels, the blood sugar levels that affect the way that energy is handled at the cellular level in our body. So it affects the ability of our immune system, improves our immune system so that we're able to resist the not just COVID-19, but all the various things that are, that are constantly sort of attacking our system. So, yeah, absolutely, it is very much at that cellular level. That's a great perspective.
She also points out that, movement, every decision we make or every choice we make about movement, there's a value to every movement, and there are consequences to it as well. Something as, as you were talking about using hand tools in the kitchen, one example that I think she used in one of her podcasts was that, even just chewing, like in our modern society, like one of the things I like to do for my breakfast is to make a smoothie and put things in it that add vitamins to it, like fruit or maybe some vegetables and things like that. And you put it in a blender; it makes it really easy to consume. But she also sees great value just in chewing, and how that even is a form of movement that sometimes in our convenient society we want to zoom right past and just get to, well, I want to get the nutrients.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the chewing process, of course, releases different sorts of enzymes and hormones within our salivary system, and triggers off the GI tract to respond in all sorts of healthy ways. So yeah, I agree totally.
See, now we've got me all excited about biomechanisms and biology, and we only have like what, another 12 minutes here. We need to wrap up this segment.
Another day, another day.
Spend time. We want to talk about how it impacts, how physical activity impacts our mental health, our mental wellness as well. We're talking with Dr. John Eckrich, founder of Grace Place Wellness. You're listening to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
You're a miracle. You know that, right? A living, breathing, one-of-a-kind miracle. You were created to stand apart, to share your gifts in the service of others, to make an uncommon impact in a common world. And at Concordia University, it's our mission to help you do that, to live uncommon. To learn more about Concordia, go to cuw.edu.
Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is Mental Health Monday. Special guest, Dr. John Eckrich, founder of Grace Place Wellness today, talking about the relationship between physical activity and mental health. Dr. Eckrich, before we went to break, talking about the great benefits of physical activity and overall benefits, how they impact our body overall, particularly when it comes to mental health. I've read articles in the past and seen numerous things indicating that physical activity, particularly exercise like running, something that really gets your heart rate up, has benefits. Could even some posing that could even cure a mental illness such as depression or anxiety or something like that. Can physical activity, or does physical activity cure mental illness?
Well, cure, I'm not sure I would go that far, but it certainly is one of the primary therapies that I think we need to, as we're holistically sort of approaching this idea of mental health, that has to be added to it. I think most of the interesting studies in the last several years, some what we call meta-analysis, which means looking at multiple studies, looking at sort of the same topic or issue and doing a statistical analysis of it. Those have showed that physical activity and exercise are probably about as good as what we would call talk therapy and as medications for the treatment of many illnesses, including depression. and in combination with the sort of talk therapy and with medications where needed, exercise is critically important to add to that sort of total mix that to help people. So yes, it not only is it helpful preventatively in terms of keeping up your spirits, keeping up your mental health, but it is very therapeutic, and many studies have documented that.
So, what benefits does physical activity or movement have on things like depression or anxiety or PTSD, ADHD, those types of situations?
Well, one interesting area that more and more is being understood has to do with all of the hormones and neurotransmitters that are released when we exercise. And I could run down a whole list of them, but just a few that I think are pretty interesting. For example, is that when we exercise vigorously, we have more of a neurotransmitter called oxytocin, which is released, and that is sort of the socially binding hormone in our body that allows us to be sort of connected and attracted to other people. There are what we call endorphins that sort of make us feel better, relieve discomfort and pain, give us a very positive, positive feeling. We know that there's serotonin released with exercise, which is definitely a mood elevating hormone that actually models of that are built into lots of the medications used in depression. And one other interesting one that I find most interesting is something called BDNF, which is brain derived neurotropic factor. And BDNF actually helps our brain to grow new brain cells, to repair damaged cells, and actually to begin growth and improvement in brain cellular function. So, from a sort of just a hormone neurotransmitter level, these are some of the great benefits to exercise. We talked also a little earlier just about the improved blood flow and the to all of our cells within our body, including those that affect our mentation, our cognitive abilities in the brain, and also just the wonderful effect on the lowering of blood sugar, which we know when blood sugar gets very high, mentation is significantly affected. And so all of these things kind of work together to improve depression. We see it or ADHD, the same sort of effects of getting that physical activity uh, allows people to be far more calm. Physical activity helps reduce stress and the sense of urgency and rumination that occur when we're anxious. So it affects just the whole variety of mental health issues.
So, alone, physical activity isn't some miracle cure, but it is certainly a part of a combination of things that are really important to our overall well being and certainly can play a role in mental health and well being.
Absolutely.
So, if you're in the middle of experiencing a mental illness or disorder, something taking up something that's new, if physical activity isn't something that's part of your regular lifestyle, taking up something new could be really hard. So, how do you introduce physical activity or start to incorporate it into your lifestyle to be a part of that whole picture, that whole person well being? Um, Especially if motivation might be lacking or less than ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you begin slowly and you begin in small incremental steps. Just doing the simple things that we talked about earlier. Walking, for example, is one of the really best things that you can do. And just first of all, make sure that you're comfortable. You're wearing comfortable clothing. Make sure that you have checked with your doctor in terms of just physical limitations. You want to make sure that your ticker is going to be, able to tolerate the exercise, and so have just a good sort of physical exam, and then begin again with small, 5 to 10 minutes at a time, getting out and exercising. I think one thing that is particularly helpful is to remember that this can be a good social activity, that it is wonderful to have someone to exercise with, sort of an accountability partner to encourage you, to help pass the time in conversation, all those sorts of benefits, and then to also help keep you on track and on target. Maybe a day that you're not feeling so energetic, or maybe you're feeling a little hopeless or exhausted. Perhaps that accountability partner, that friend, can encourage and help you move as well. So
Mhm.
I think having that partner is a great idea.
Yeah, there have been days, several days in the last few weeks at least, and I've told my husband if I'm really crabby, make me get up and go outside and take a walk because I will probably feel better even if I really don't want to. And it usually works. There's so many times that just that movement and just breathing more intentionally can be such a huge help to boost a mental health, even if you don't have a diagnosed illness. It makes everything just feel better.
Yeah, yeah. And choose a time of day that is good for you. Not all of us are particularly excited about doing exercises at any particular time of day. So choose a good time. Choose activities that you enjoy doing. Like I said, if you're not a weightlifter, I'm not particularly a weightlifter. I don't enjoy that, but I find other ways to kind of accomplish the same thing, and try to find activities like walking or biking or whatever that you enjoy doing. And the other thing you can do is actually kind of reward yourself a little bit, not with a chocolate chip cookie necessarily, but maybe take a bubble bath, or you know reward yourself with an extra episode of your favorite TV show, or like Andy does, get yourself a smoothie or something like that. It's healthy, and put a little kale in there, and all of that will. All of those are ways to be self-encouraging, and to encourage. Again, you're going to be an accountability partner for your friend, and so you can encourage each other in that way.
But it's a
Mhm.
whole wheat chocolate chip cookie.
Well, that is a reward for many of us. That's right.
Everything in moderation. Uh, we've mentioned going outside and doing this. What is that added factor of being outside in nature to do this physical activity? What benefit does that have on top of just the movement in general?
Well, I think sunshine is an obvious tremendous mood factor. We know that, in fact, people that are experiencing the winter doldrums, or who are living in environments that generally are cold and dreary, and without sunshine, can definitely have a variety of affective disorders, mental health illnesses, which are really challenging. So I think the sunshine, the vitamin D, the warmth, all of that is particularly beneficial. And just getting out in the fresh air, where you have hopefully a non-polluted source of oxygen out there, is very helpful. Just looking at the beauty of God's creation, the scenery, I think has not just physical, but mental and emotional and even spiritual effects, certainly, as we experience all these gifts that God has given us.
So to recap, because we have just about half a minute left
Mhm.
here, uh, if you want, if physical activity isn't a regular part of your lifestyle and your routine, to incorporate it into your lifestyle, start in increments, have someone help hold you accountable for that in a loving way. I think Sarah pointed out, just asking your husband. My wife is ever so gracious when those days come that I need to go for a run and I don't recognize it myself. She'll ever so lovingly remind me, "Hey, I think you have time for a run if you want to go for a run."
Please get off the
Implying
couch and go for a ride.
well, it's not so much that I'm just sitting on the couch, but implying that maybe I need that mental break from whatever else it is that I'm doing, and to go out and just get some fresh air or a time to think about something different than what I'm stuck in at the moment. And then also rewarding yourself. One example being when you were talking about going on a walk, I think it was Katie Bowman who said, for some people, having a destination when you're going for a walk is
Mhm.
a good thing. Not just I need to go for a walk, but having a destination. Now it might be the ice cream shop in town, but having I, but having a destination, or maybe it's just going to another shop where you're not necessarily buying food, but looking at something or looking for something specific on your walk, watching for a specific bird or something like that. But having some sort of destination besides just taking a walk. Uh, with just a few seconds left, Dr. Eckrich, anything else to share with us today about physical activity and mental health?
Well, just remember the connection between the two, and that's the focus of our talk today. And they both feed into each other, and both really improve our the joy and the abundance of our living.
Dr. John Eckrich, founder of Grace Place Wellness, thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour today.
Thank you.
I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.